What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a wonderful day. It's Red from Carry Crew bringing you another video. Today I wanted to talk to you about things I don't think you should leave the house without, especially men that like to be prepared. Um, I've done a lot of trades jobs. I've done a lot of electrical, welding, machining, mechanical, uh, maintenance tech, HVAC. I've built houses. I've demolished houses. Even some arborists work I've done. So I've done a lot. So my EDC and what I put in my daily bag, or the bag I carry around every day. It's not a tool bag. That's just my prepared bag, I suppose you would say, is a bit different than I feel like a lot of channels. A lot of channels, I feel like they focus on sort of generality instead of specifics, and I'd like to focus more on specifics because I've done that, and that's what inspires me to make my bag and be prepared is things I've actually done and been through. So we'll start this with a measuring tape. I feel like you shouldn't leave the house without a measuring tape. Doesn't matter what you do. It's a tool that is almost almost always useful in some situation. You just never know when you're going to need it. It's it saved me a couple of times just having one in my pocket. I highly suggest getting one that you can carry in your pocket comfortably. I know they've got a lot of different shapes, a lot of different varieties, a lot of different kinds. This is the 175-year anniversary Stanley Carpentry 10-foot tape measure. It's a lot of words, I know, but I got this, I believe, for $9.50 at a Ross Tools or an Ace Hardware. It was the last one they had, and I've only broken the tape measure on it. I broke the end one time, accidentally dropping a plate on it, and that was my fault. And I found a pretty crappy, I don't even remember what company it was. It was just another 10-foot tape measure. Took the whole thing apart, slapped the tape measure back into it, and it's worked fine ever since. If you've ever had to take a tape measure apart, you'll know how much of a pain that is. They're not difficult, they're finicky. And you got to hold the spring and wind the spring and do all this other stuff while holding it all still, and then feed the tape measure back through and then lock it. And then it's just finicky, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but you know it will unravel on you, and then you're just sitting there for 10, 15 minutes just raveling it back up. But I highly recommend carrying a tape measure on you. You never know when you're going to need one. It saved me from breaking some doors before, trying to get a refrigerator or a dryer or something like that through. Next thing I'll move on to is a lighter. I feel like it's something that everyone takes for granted. This is obviously this is a Zippo, but this is a different insert for a Zippo. This is not from Zippo. I believe this is by USUD at USUD. It's on Amazon. The hinge, when you flip it open, this hinge actually activates the gas, and then all you have to do is flick it. And that's a standard sort of Bic yellow flame, and then when you press the button, it's a torch. It takes, if you can look, there we go. It takes standard fluid. It doesn't take standard Zippo fluid. It takes standard butane. The one thing I'll say is, when you get it, you're going to have to unscrew the center Phillips head and then take a drill bit and drill out the gas port so that you can actually get the adapter, because you're going to need an adapter to fill this up. It's not that big of a pain. If you buy butane, it comes in the cap. It's really that simple. But I filled this up 2 months ago, and it's still going strong. I use it all the time. You never know when you're going to need a lighter. I've talked about them before, but this is a good time to re-mention them. If a Zippo isn't your speed and you prefer Bic or Clipper, I was wrong in the last video. It's Clipper that these fit. Lighter bros are great. They're a great way of kind of having a tool on you at all times, even a beer bottle opener and some other assorted tools like an eyeglass case, scissors, or an eyeglass screwdriver, scissors, a a blade and a flathead. So these are something that are sort of invaluable if you don't want to carry a Zippo, and also just sort of as a party thing. These take up a couple of the tools that we'll be showing. Just if you toss it in your pocket and you're going to a party, this takes up a good bit of tools on its own. They're not amazing tools, but I don't feel like at a party you're going to be ripping down cardboard. Next thing I would suggest is a pen. Especially one that can write on your hand, or one of those write in rain pens where it works in water. Pens are invaluable, especially since you don't want to use a Sharpie all the time. A pen can really help you, and especially for me, because I do a lot of machining and welding, and we need to do some blueprints and drawings and whatnot. And a pen can be invaluable for that, and also just recording information. I understand we all carry a phone on us all the time, but I don't think a lot of people are using the voice memo that's on their phone. So the next thing I think everyone should carry is a flashlight. You never know when you might need a flashlight, and especially if you've got kids or something like that, it's a very useful thing, because kids, you can pacify a child with a flashlight for a very for a good amount of time, especially if it's dark. But also if you've got kids that are afraid of the dark, or you go camping or something like that, flashlights are great. I highly recommend the Olight Baton 4. This one specifically, I think they've got a long version of the Baton 4. I do like that one. I'm not a fan of the way they charge, where they click on with this proprietary charger. But the Baton 4 gets around that with this case. This is my Baton 3. It fits in this case as well. And this is a rechargeable case for your baton. So you just toss your flashlight in there and it'll recharge. The case, I think, recharges it 4 times. And it also acts as a battery, a power bank. So you can plug up your phone into it, and it will recharge it pretty well, actually. I mean, I think at 100% for my phone, it got it to 70 or so that's pretty good. This is the Baton 3. This holds, I think, 3 or 4 different kinds of flashlights besides the Baton 4, so it's worth looking into. Next thing I recommend is carrying a knife. It's an invaluable tool to be able to open packages, or I guess defend yourself if you're making enemies like that. I mean, I shouldn't say that. The city I live in, enemies can pop out of nowhere some days. But a knife is just one of those things, and that just kind of it makes you feel more confident in what you can do, and that's really what makes a skilled tradesman, is confidence in their ability. And some of that comes from carrying tools, but some of that comes from carrying the right tools and knowing how to work with those tools, or carrying the kind of tools that make the job easier in some ways. So we're going to expand upon this a bit, because I carry a lot of tools, and there's some stuff that you should carry just as contingency, and some stuff you should carry just because of your trade. So we'll get into the tape measure first, since that's where I started off with. The tape measure, I don't really have any upgrades from that. Get a bigger tape measure. The one thing I'll say is, if you're a welder or you deal with pipe, get one of these. These are, I believe it's a tape measure for measuring, wastes and whatnot. But this is an invaluable tool if you're measuring pipe. It is, I don't remember how many feet this one is. I guess this one's only about a yard, but a yard will get you a long ways. I've used it for measuring pipe. It's great because unlike some tools that I've seen people try to use where they try to trace it, this, all you have to do is connect one side to the other. And I usually hold it down with a magnet, and then you can trace it with a Sharpie or some soapstone real easy. That's kind of an invaluable tool if you're oxyacetylene cutting a pipe, I'll be honest. I don't have to do it a lot anymore, but when I did, it was not the most fun. It was a lot more fun when I was allowed to do it with a machine that automatically cut it for me. So I guess to expand upon that is a square. It's kind of a weird thing to carry unless you're carrying it for your job, but I found that this Milwaukee one works great. It's small enough that I can throw in my bag and do most of the work I need to do. It's only, I think, 4 inches either direction. But what that means is that I can use my tape measure or the fabric tape measure to finish a lot of the work anyway. A lot of the time, if you can start a job correctly, you can finish a job with the tools that you have at hand. But it requires you to prepare it correctly. A lot of jobs, you will be more successful with more preparation than you will with just going at it. So the next thing, we've talked about pry bars and mini pry bars and EDC pry bars and whatnot. So this one I carry daily on my pouch, but I also carry 2 others because as a machinist, I have had to use this one quite a lot to basically slam out threads. I got this one on Amazon. It's the only one I found that has a hammer in, which is great because you can smash the hell out of it. And I have, if you look at the tip, I have smashed the hell out of it. I've had to reprofile it a couple of times, but this is an invaluable tool. This one, I would say, is stronger than that one. It's also, I mean, it's very much more comfortable than that one. When I was a mechanic, I carried this instead of my mini screwdriver because they had 2 versions of this. They have this one and they have a slightly thinner one, and they work the same way, but a lot of the time I couldn't get my flathead to get the right pry to pop out, like rivets or things like that. You carry one of these, and you can pretty much get through all that pretty easily as long as it's small. The next thing is this is an ox tool cat claw, I believe. I think it was 10 inches when I first got it. You can see I've done a lot of work on it. It was blue at one point, but I cut off the nail puller on the end and made it flat and made it a pry bar because this is more of a dedicated pry bar, and you can get a lot of leverage on this, even though it's about 9 inches now, I believe. I believe that's how much it got shortened by, was around 9 inches, around 1 inch. Yeah, it's maybe 9 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch, something like that. But it's got a tack hammer. That's not the best hammer, but if you need a hammer, not the best hammer is still better than not a hammer. I removed the claw part of the other end because it was destroying my bag. Originally this was cut and this was like this, but now this is this is sort of a perfect EDC tool to throw in my bag because it slides down right on the side of my bag, and you can. I've helped a lot of people out with this, especially with like decks. This is coming a lot of handy of pulling wood. Especially if you need to slam down some nails real quick. This will do the job. Your hand will hate you afterward, but it'll do the job. So the next thing I will go over, we've gone over multi-tools before, so I think it's worth mentioning dedicated tools that are. I got these at different times in my life. I bought these when I was a mechanic because of the way they've gotten me out of so many situations, especially with like radiators and condensers and whatnot. That if you've ever dealt with a condenser that has a steel bolt running to the aluminum, it starts to gall after a while and it gets real crappy. But you can adjust that and put it right in line on it and grab a bar and like this. You grab it, put it on there, and just pop, and it pops it to the side. It only takes one pop, but if you don't get that one pop right away, you start to round off the ends of the bolt head, and it becomes a nightmare after that. You don't want to do that. That's one of the tools I go to almost first off, just because 60% of the time, it works every time, you know. These two are invaluable if you're a maintenance tech, if you're in mechanics, if you're a electrician, HVAC. These are something that almost every guy should carry, especially the Knipex, the non-marring pair, and the standard pliers have got me out of so many situations. A couple of times in my own crappy situations, like a car breaking down. These have gotten me out of really tough spots, radiator spots, a couple of hose leak spots, stuff like that, where I can. Your standard multi-tool just isn't going to remove some of the hose clamps that are on some cars, especially if you've got some of the older cars with the clip style. They're not even going to get wide enough to even attempt to try it. So I wouldn't even try with those. This is something that is much better of an option. You know, these open up wide enough, you can get almost any hose clamp, and you know, they lock real well. You only have to hold the bottom if you're turning stuff. If you get the bigger pair, these are amazing for pipes and things like that, because they grab on, and you can break stuff off. I've got a bigger pair, but they're at work. I've got the I think it's like a 10-inch pair, something like that. It's a 12-inch pair. But definitely an invaluable tool you should consider carrying if you do more intricate kind of electrical work, or deal with bolts or anything like that. That's an invaluable tool. So I think on my first video, I talked about how this knife has a center punch, automatic center punch, basically. It doesn't work very well, I'll be honest. But that doesn't matter, because as a machinist, I quite often need a center punch. And these are the ones I carry. They're a little worse for wear. I need to I need to buy a new one of these, and I just need to take this to a wheel and reround it. But these work just by pulling and slamming down. They're great center punches. This one's great if you're into carpentry, actually, because both of these are flat. Well, this one's not so flat anymore, but both of these look like this when I got it, and they're great for, you know, nails that are in crappy spots. You just smash the nail, and a couple of whacks with this, and it goes right down. They're amazing little tools the way they work, and they're real light, and I've even used these as a mechanic, specifically this one, to center punch a bolt that I'm about to drill out, and try to, usually on exhaust, but try to, save my day from, trying to kill myself later because I've just ruined an exhaust system, or ruined the amount of time that I am supposed to be working on an exhaust system. To expand sort of an in-between between pry bars and pliers is a jam bar. They're typically used for, like, well, you got the woo-woos there. It's Atlanta police for you. But these are typically used for installation of toilets and removal of toilets and whatnot. But they work. I mean, it's just a solid, thin piece of steel. You put one on the backside of a bolt to keep it from spinning, and then you drill it in from the other side. It really has gotten me out of some real tight spots. Some doors, actually, I've been able to get through with this. Weirdly enough, you just are able to slide it through and jimmy the lock open. It's kind of an invaluable tool if you work in tight spots. It's gonna fit better than most of your other tools. I mean, it only takes up maybe 1/4 inch one way. So moving on from that, since we were talking about getting through doors, this is something that you need to. So this next one, you're gonna have to check your local laws on. This is grav pick. I'm a very minor apprentice. I don't even know if you would call it an apprentice. I am an aspiring lockpick. I want to learn. It seems like an interesting skill to be able to have, but I also understand that without a lockpick license, carrying one of these around can get you in a lot of trouble under certain circumstances. I know carrying this, and a couple of the other tools I have all together with the lockpick is not don't do it. It's asking for trouble, especially with I can your lovely table mat is actually my hvac that I carry with me, and altogether it looks incriminating, like I'm trying to rob somebody or a place to rob. I'm not. I just like to be prepared, and having a pick is a great way of being prepared. I bought this. They come with two rakes and two feeler picks, and then one tension bar. I mean, if all you're dealing with is a master lock, this is all you need. You don't even need this necessarily. The hammer is all you really need for a master lock. But this has got me through a couple of locks that let's not talk too detailed about. But it's got me through a couple of things that I need to get through, and I leave it at home most of the time. But sometimes I carry it with me just in case. So expanding upon the grav pick and lock picks is credit card tools. This is a weird sort of jump, I understand, but this is one of the few credit card or card tools I actually really like. I believe it was crowdfunded. I don't like most of them because they're usually not thick enough, and they have these kind of superlative tools that you're not going to be using on a card tool at the very least. A great example are these bits here, or these hexes, I suppose, open ends. You've got a 1/4 inch. What? That can't be a 1/4 inch. Anyways, it has a 1/4 inch bit somewhere, I guess, but it's saying it's a 4mm, 6mm, 8mm, 10mm, and 1/4 inch. I think that's a misprint, if I'm honest. So it also has a ruler. You can barely see the ruler. It's got a headphone wrap. That's awesome. I don't know why I don't use headphones with cord anymore. I don't even think my phones have them on them. But it has that, which is an interesting tool. It's got a orange peeler here. That's why I bought this tool. It's got a lot of weird stuff. This is supposed to be where you could insert a credit card and turn it into a phone holder. I find that my phones are too heavy. It might be perfect for iPhones. You got a Phillips head is what it says, and a flat head on here. And then, of course, your obligatory beer bottle opener, because you can't be multi-tool without a beer bottle opener. And then it's got my favorite tool on here is this little hook, which is also an eyeglass flathead, but it also fits in through the seam of a door and pushes down on the lock. And then you just kind of grab it and pull, and it opens the door. And it's a really weird one that I've bought, and I don't even remember when or where I bought it, but it's gotten me through a couple of locked weird doors, funnily enough, that old ones especially it'll work on. But it's gotten me out of a couple of situations, or into a couple of weird situations that they pan out for the better usually. So those are two tools that I have. I don't carry them every day. I carry this one every day because you can justify this in a wallet. It's not a lockpick, but this is if I get searched and they find this and everything else, it's definitely reasonable suspension. So those are all something to consider with that. The next thing I will talk about, since I said a pen, are pen options. I use this one all the time at work for machining. It writes on practically everything, and it writes in a way where if you're not cutting it with oxyacetylene or a plasma cutter, you can see it all the way to the end, especially if you're machine cutting it on like a Bridgeport. So this one is a soapstone that I carry. It's just for writing on metal. I mean, I do a lot of welding, so do a lot of quick notes on metal of what I'm doing. It's great if you work HVAC or metal, and then Sharpie or the Milwaukee one they have. I don't have that one, but it writes on enough that between the four of these things, you can pretty much write on anything you want. Next thing I'll mention, in a bag at least, you should carry some rope, paracord specifically. It really gets you out of a lot of crappy spots, especially if you help friends out moving stuff around and things like that. Paracord's an invaluable tool. Next we'll move on to bits, because I carry this in my car. It's gotten me out of a couple of situations, and specifically where I had to release some pressure from an old van I had, and I couldn't really figure it out until one of the bits just fit perfectly, and I believe it was this one actually, and I was able to purge it. The gas and temperature went down, and we were able to continue our trip. Also, 3-inch bits. A lot of multi-tools have a collar or something where it won't let you reach down in there all the way. So carrying a couple of these doesn't weigh a whole lot. You can find a way of carrying them. I have a machinist tube that an old tap came in that I carry these, and the saw blades, the T-shank saw blades for my rock sawing in. But this is something that I've come into a couple of situations where I had carried them. I should have carried them, and they would have got me out of a tight spot. But you live, you learn. Now I carry them. So moving on from that, it's more focused, both hobby focused and sort of specific, focused on certain jobs. This is a micro bit set. I think I got this one from Hobby Lobby or something like that. It doesn't really matter where you get them from. The point is, these will get you out of some really interesting situations that you find yourself in. It came with a different screwdriver. I like this sort of minimal one. It spins on the end, so you just apply pressure, and it's perfect for just little hobby shop stuff. These going on from that the 3-inch bits I was saying, is these together you can fit anywhere basically, especially once you utilize this. It screws into this, or it doesn't screw, it just magnetically connects to this, and now you have a flexible end, and it's a weird tool that if you need to take apart small electronics or things like that, it's great. I wish I had something like this back in the early 2000s when I was working on my Xbox 360 and trying to put 3 of them together to make one work, which I eventually did, but you had to kind of like leave the front of the disc tray open so that you could get the discs out. So it didn't work 100%, but I was able to game for a couple more years. Forgot to mention this. The Ox Tool pen comes with these, or where you can buy these for them. These are replacement graphite, I believe it's made out of. Red, yellow, black. I bought a full pack of black because honestly, it's sort of an invaluable thing. If you need a pen or a pencil, it's sort of like a perfect in the middle of them. This is a tool that I wish I had got introduced earlier to in my life when I was working as a mechanic, because there are so many times I could have used this as a mechanic. This was the first one I was given by a man I was working with, and he's the one that was like, hey, look, you should carry one of these. These are invaluable as a machinist to find out diameters and bolts, and even to figure out thread pitches and whatnot. These are invaluable. So I've finally found one by Empire. I believe I got this at Harbor Freight. I'm sure it was Harbor Freight, actually. It's only like 4 inches, I believe. Yeah, it's 4 inches. But 4 inches will get you a long ways in machining. It'll get you a long ways in life. But one of these will be invaluable. I believe it's got metric and standard. Yeah, it does. So you can tell 20 millimeters, and then it'll also help you, like, we can get it to focus a bit better. So if you pull out 20, you'll see that 20 is bang on the same as 3/4. Basically, it's 3/4 of an inch. It's, I think, a 1/16 of an inch difference, but that'll help you a lot when you're trying to figure out bolts and stuff like that as a mechanic, because you pull it out and you put it on 20 and you find out that your 3/4 doesn't fit because you've got a 1/16 of an inch slip, so it's actually a 20 millimeter. That's That'll help you not round bolts out, to be honest. I've done it so many times. They have other tools for that. I have one on my keychain at work. Works for small bolts, I believe. Eddie over at True Acolyte showed that on his channel as well. So you head over there and look at that. But this is more of a, you can see up to 4 inches on it. So this is more of a specific tool. You're gonna have to learn the difference and whatnot, but there are charts online you can learn them from. It's not difficult. Sort of moving on, since we're talking about bolts, this is something that you should package up. Like, you should go look some of these tools up and package up tomorrow to put in your car. It's an invaluable tool. We had a radiator leak, and I had to replace the radiator in the middle of the road one time, well, on the side of the road one time, and I had this in my kit, and it was, sort of an invaluable tool. I carry 2 different wrenches, well, 3, I guess, if you consider it all together, but 2 different ones. This one is by Gear Wrench. It's got a little 1/4 inch on here, and you can fit all of these bits. All of these bits and these bits fit on here, so you can get a good little purchase on some stuff if you need to, and and it's ratcheting, so you can get a good purchase and get some good leverage. And it's also small and low profile considerably, and you can get this into some of the tighter spots with any of those, or even a socket on it. I carry specific sockets we'll go over in a second, but you carry this and a little socket and a socket set, a small socket set of common sockets, and you can get into a lot of places. And the ones you can't, your Knipex will help you out with it a lot of the time. So next one I want to mention is this one that I got introduced to years ago, and it has gotten me out of a lot of weird spots. This is by Vim Tools. It is the HBR1046. On one end, you have a 1/4 inch, and it fits all the standard 1/4 inch bits, but on the other end, you have a 10 millimeter. No more losing your 10 millimeter. It's here, and they're adjustable, and they're ratcheting, and this fits here, so you have your standard ratchet that you would use at work, as long as you're not using 1/2 inch or anything like that. This is an invaluable tool to be able to do work on your car. It's got this long thin neck, so you can angle it, get in there, and tighten something up or loosen something. It really has gotten me out of a lot of spots. We'll talk about these tools real quick, I suppose. I carry this is a locking adapter collar for these bits. It's just sometimes you need one. It's sort of like an extension for these bits, and I've been in a situation where I need one and I didn't have one, and it really does help to carry one. I don't even know where to get one. I believe I got this in a set, and I took it out of the set, and I've kept it ever since. Yeah, I definitely got it in the set because it says a T15. So I don't know what set that is. I couldn't even tell you anymore. I got it early on in my career, but I've carried it ever since. And then I carry an 8 millimeter, a 10 millimeter. Even though there's a 10 on here, having a 10 millimeter like this will give you some more purchase. A 12, a 13, a 14, and a 15. Doesn't cover all of the bases, but it covers enough of the bases that I'm not angry at myself for not having, if I don't have a 22 millimeter or a 42 millimeter or anywhere in between that, I'm not angry at myself for not carrying that, but I am angry if I can't get small bolts. This, I believe it's T55. I actually have taken it to the park, in my bag before, and there was a tool that was, or a toy, I guess, broken on the park that took a T55, and I fixed it while I was there. It's one of those tools that it's a weird tool. I've used it as a mechanic more than anything, but if you need it, you need it. And that one happens to not be on a socket. That one happens to be on I can put it on a shank. I believe it's definitely larger than a standard 1/4 inch, but I believe it fits like a 10 millimeter or an 8 millimeter or something like that. It was socketed in something at one point, and I think I heated it up and it fell off. It's not a 10, so it's an 8. Yeah, it's an 8 millimeter. So it was socketed into something at one point, and then I believe I heated the whole thing up, and it heated it off, and I was surprised to find that it still said that it was a T55 underneath. But this has got me out of some tight spots as well. Next, we'll talk about some more carpentry sort of focused stuff. I found this Irwin. It is a chisel. It's a 1-inch chisel that opens like a butterfly knife. I found this at Lowe's, maybe Home Depot, something like that. It comes with a hammer in. The one thing I'll say is when you get this, it comes with a lock in here that is, they feed into each other, and it's great if you're only going to ever leave it in a chisel mode. But when you have to try to undo it, you're definitely not going to fit your fingers in here to like push it open. So you have to do this annoying little to do it, which is a lot easier if you just cut it off. It's got this gear mechanism to pull it together, so the cutting it off doesn't really weaken it a whole lot. You should be holding it when you hammer it anyway, so it's not like that jolt is going to fly it open like it would with a butterfly knife. But this has gotten me into out of some weird situations at work with wood. I know it's ironic that I work with wood a lot as a welder, but as a welder, I have to make templates a lot and proofs of concept, and sometimes you don't want to waste the metal to do that, so you can do that a lot easier with a chisel and some saws and a couple of knife blades and a Sharpie. You make a proof of concept, show that your idea works, and then suddenly, bam, you're off. So I was planning on bringing this up on the last video with my big knives, but I thought it's actually more of a tool than it is, the way I use it is more of a tool than a knife. This is one of the only things by Camillus I've liked over the past decade. They used to be a really great company when I was a kid, and it seemed like they just took a fall. This is basically, I think it's called a swedge, and while the handle is kind of I could chop it off and replace it one day. It's got good ergonomics on it, big enough for my hand, which is nice. It's got a chisel ground tip, which is the smart thing they did. I think we've gone over it before, but a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll dual grind the edge on the chisel on something like this, and it just turns it into not a chisel anymore. And then it's got a dual grind on the blade, which I was originally thinking about making this flat too, but I used it as a baton one time, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, the double grind makes it a lot better for a baton than the chisel, because the chisel has an occasion to wander, and if you're hammering it like that, it really wants to be used as a tool. The one thing I'll say is the back spine is aggressive. It is real aggressive. It destroyed the baton. I had to go in there with a wire brush to clean it out. So that's one thing. And I would upgrade it to have a pommel, something big, because it does have that chisel end. So I would like to be able to strike it without worrying about hitting my hand around it. So a good pommel would be good. Hate the belt sheath. It's that kind of plasticky. It's not like a Kydex. This is just sort of like a injection molded plastic, I believe. Yeah, it's got seams, so it's probably an injection molded plastic, and it's got good retention, but it is one of the most uncomfortable sheets I've ever seen. Camillus is a weird company. They used to be real good. I think they were one of the first American knife companies, and then they got sold overseas, and their stuff's just kind of gone downhill. I'll show you a good example of that if I can. So we'll start off with, so this is, I don't even know what steel this is necessarily, but it says it's got a titanium coating, I believe, and then it's got rust spots on it. I've only used this occasionally, So I'm gonna have to take some buffing wheel and buff that out. But I've only used that occasionally. So camless, you got something going on in your badges. I would look into it. The next thing would be this. This is sort of a invaluable tool if you work as an electrician. Not just being able to cut tools, or cut wire, but to be able to snip zip ties flush and not massacre the next guy that comes around is a really nice thing to do. You can really tell electricians that have problems at home by the way they leave their zip ties. Ask me how I know. My apprentice had a problem at home, and we found out by him cutting zip ties at a bad angle and then leaving wire bad, and we were just like, oh, you don't care anymore. So before I let you go, I think I'll give you some honorable mentions. hvac has double bit set that is, I mean, if you're in the trades, it's incredibly useful. I carry enough of them on me in my standard day-to-day. I think I carry most of the hvacs and a couple of my other bits that I've gotten, but this is just a pill case, guys. You don't have to go out and buy some sort of fancy case or something that says Snap-on or the U.S. General. This, I don't even know who it's by. It doesn't even matter. It holds my bits. I took some super glue and super glued in the case into the seams so that it doesn't come apart. It's got a magnet here so it doesn't just fly open. And I put it in my pouch, and it gets me out of so many things a day because standard in standard people carry like a Phillips head, a flat head, maybe a couple of Allens on them if you've got that kind of job. I know when I was a machinist or working heavily as a machinist with some of the bigger mills, I carried Allen sets all the time, but it's not something I do now. Being able to just reach in, grab the bit you need instead of walking over to the your toolbox is something that is invaluable because you don't always know what you need. I know a lot of guys I've worked with are like, well, just grab what you need. Well, I don't know what the last guy used, man. And I'll be honest, a lot of my job has been working after the last guy, if you know what I mean. So don't be the last guy. Always try to have some pride in your work. Try to finish it the way it's supposed to be finished, and if you don't do it that way, it's because you knew a better way. That's what I'll say about that. Every trade, every blue-collar worker and every tradesman should have some pride in their work. They should not take shortcuts. You're going to get paid the same either way, but when that time you go home sooner because your shortcut may be permanent one day, and you can't go, well, that's not fair, I didn't know, or you can't blame OSHA or blame the boss. You should know better, and you should take pride in your work, and a lot of that has to do with carrying tools that function in your role. A lot of channels focus on, hey, this is the cool new thing, like the Leatherman Arc when it came out. Just look up the Leatherman Arc and see the thousands of videos of people just gooing over it when it came out and fanboying, but it wasn't really anything new. It was sort of the same old, same old. Now, there are some modifications I've seen done to it that are really impressive, but it's not going to cover everything I have on this table. You get a bag, and you can cover most of your job with simple everyday tools that you can get for not a lot of money. I think the most expensive thing I've purchased on this table is, let me look, probably the Knipex. Just not even the 6-inch. This is probably the most expensive thing on the table. It was like $70, I think, when I bought it. I bought it right when it came out. That is to say, the flashlights are probably just as expensive, and this knife is definitely just as expensive, but the knife was more a way of saying that you should always carry a knife. But these are probably the three most expensive things I carry. Invaluable though, especially O-light. I know a lot of people like to carry bigger lights, but this thing is just as powerful as a bigger light. It lasts hours. I haven't charged that orange one in a long time. I don't even know it. Yeah, and I think it's fully charged now. Yeah, all three green. So this thing is fully charged now, and it's only been in there for a few minutes. So haven't charged it in about a month, I think. The last time we went camping was the last time I charged it, just before we went camping. So last thing is, since I managed to figure that transition out for camping, carry, this is a weird one, but you should carry a eating utensil. I carry chopsticks too, but everyone knows what chopsticks look like. They're nothing special. I just have mine in a Ziploc bag. But this is by Kershaw. If you can find this one, I highly recommend it. It's got a camping hook to pull out. This was originally a carabiner. Take the carabiner off. But now you can turn it into a camping hook to pull out pots. It's got a fork. It's got a spoon. You should be carrying a knife. They shouldn't be providing it. And then it's got a beer bottle opener, of course. But that's just something to throw in as a sort of, hey, this is, everybody might be able to carry this. But I think that you should focus your everyday carry on what is your job and what is it that you encounter. Because some of these tools are definitely specific, but some of these tools I've used across my entire career, especially the Knipex wrenches. It's you find ways, if you're a jack of all trade, of making your knowledge cross paths with other knowledge and figuring out a problem where other people that only know one way are stuck for hours. So that's all I've got for you today. I would say take pride in your work, expand your knowledge, learn other trades and what they do, and you'll be able to get yourself out of spots you never thought you would have been able to get out of before. Pride doesn't come from just anywhere. It comes from experience, and you should have enough experience to develop the pride to make your work look good and make sure that you're not screwing the next guy that comes behind you, because the next guy that comes behind you might be you, and nothing's more embarrassing than screwing yourself on a job that you could have done the right job on. But anyways, everyone have a great day. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you would carry, and let me know what your job is every day, and we'll see what we can get going for you. If we can improve it, or if you've got the best things that are going. Some people definitely have things better thought out than I do. So y'all have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.